Hello, my name is Susie, and I am the owner of the Speckled Loon. Today we are going to be putting together a special project. In July, I'm hosting some in-person workshops for this kit, and I decided to offer it in my shop as well, so customers that can't attend a workshop can also make all the items. I will have the link to purchase the kit in the description box below this video, along with all the paint and markers I used. If you have any questions, all my contact info is in the description box as well. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more DIY content from the Speckled Loon. So, enough chatting, let's dive into this kit. So here's a quick look at everything that comes in your kit that we provide for you, and I'm also going to go over what you are going to need to provide as well. So everything comes individually wrapped in your projects, and that is the Christmas tea towel, and that is the coffee bar tea towel. And each project has a scoop. That is the Christmas scoop. This is the coffee bar scoop, and then this is the ladder, and you're going to get a little pack full of some application tools that I will go over each individual item. So the tools and extras we are providing for you are these flat end swabs. They're great for detail work, cleanup work, putting on paint in small places. These foam wedges are great for applying your paint over the bigger items like the tea towels. You will get glue to put everything together. This gel super glue you can also get at the Dollar Tree. And toothpicks for detail work, putting glue in small places, that type of thing. You're going to get this full video tutorial and some printed instructions as well. The printed are like a general reference guide to see how to paint and put things together just visually, and then the detailed of everything is going to be in this video for the step-by-step how-to. And I'm going to just put all the unfinished projects away, and then I am going to show you how you can store everything once it's finished in the same box when not in use. So this is how everything goes together. You have that ladder, and there's a base that the ladder sits in, and then you have your 2 tea towels. This is the Christmas project, and then there is a corresponding or coordinating scoop that goes with it, and it just hangs over that with a clear elastic. And then the same goes for the coffee bar project. There's that brace on the back, I'll show you a little better, that holds the towel into place. And then that is your coffee bar scoop. And when not in use, you can just tuck everything back away in that box and use it over. Now you are going to need to provide a few things to complete the kit. First and foremost, you are going to need to provide your paint. The reason I do that is everybody has paint that they really like and prefer. I use chalk paint, but the small little 2-ounce acrylic paint jars work just as fine. Same with brushes. You've got brushes that you like to use. I provide some basic application tools, but if you've got brushes for detail that you like, use them. Paint markers. These are your friend for your small items, your lettering, that type of thing. I love using paint markers for the small items. And then for some shading, maybe watercolor pencils if you'd like. I do show you how to do that on one of the projects, but that is optional. You are going to need to round up a sharp pair of scissors. Fabric scissors do work best for cutting the ribbon and string, but as long as you've got a good sharp pair of scissors, that will get the job done. Paper plates are great for mixing your paint, putting your paint on items, taping down small items, and then you can use painter's tape or masking tape for that as well to tape your items down on those plates while you're painting them, or masking off areas if you want to make stripes, that type of thing. And I like to have some wet wipes on hand for general cleanup on my projects in my work area and my hands. We are going to go over sorting out things and what we are going to paint white first. I use this white chalk paint from Waverly. I get it at Walmart, but you could use any white paint that you like or whatever color you like to paint your towels. And we use the little sponges, the foam wedges that come in your kit. So you're going to take out your 2 towel kits for now, and we're going to set everything else aside. So for your 2 towel things, you're going to take out the coffee bar and set the stand parts aside, and same thing for the Christmas towel. You're just going to take those stand parts and set those aside. And now when you flip these over, these parts are going to be attached with a little bit of painter's tape, and you're going to want to get those out. All right, so I took out the cup and the star. For the parts where there are letters, lay it down flat on top of the base towel, and then take off the tape and take out the main words, and then I'm just using that tape to re-stick up the little parts that I'm going to paint the same color as the towel. The little centers of the O's and the A's, that type of thing. Same thing with the word bakery. And I take out that little rolling pin. I take the word bakery, set that aside, and then I'm picking up those small parts on that tape that I have in the kit. The little other parts that I'm going to color, I'm setting those aside on their own paper plate. And now I'm doing the same thing for the word coffee. I'm just picking up those little innards, the little in parts of the O, etc. And same thing for the word bar. And I'm going to set those aside too, because I'm going to be coloring those different colors. I'm making my towels white. You can make them be whatever color you prefer. But for this video, I'm just going traditional. I'm also, from the little coffee cup on the coffee bar sign, taking out the insert of that handle. So what I'm doing here is I am making a loop with some painter's tape, so it's sticky on both sides. And then I'm just taking those small little parts that I am going to have to paint white, and I am putting them on top of that double stick loop that I have just made. Reason being is this keeps everything in place. These are small, tiny parts, and it's the easiest way to keep track of everything. And so I don't have parts and pieces flying all over my work area. Now for these small parts, and for the large parts, again, I'm using this white chalk paint. You use whatever you want. It's just important that you do the inner parts and the towels in the same color. So I'm going to take and get a little bit of paint on one of my foam wedges. And I'm going to do the backer first, because I do not have to do the whole backer. I just have to do this little lip that's going to show. And then I'm taking a toothpick or a straight pen, whatever you like to prefer, and I'm just scoring out those little lines that are there to make them crisp and visible. And I'm going to repeat the same thing on the coffee bar towel. Again, use whatever color you like. For the purposes of this video, I am using white. Now, if I get some on the edge, I can wipe that away right away, or I can get a baby wipe or a wet wipe or wet paper towel. I like to keep my edges crisp. I don't paint them. I just feel like when they're painted, they look a little sloppy. So if I need to clean them up, again, I get out those makeup wipes, baby wipes, wet paper towel, just very damp, not super wringing wet, and clean those up as I go along. It's very easy when the paint is wet to clean them up. So now I'm going to paint the towels themselves, the towel fronts. Again, just taking that wedge and getting some paint on it and dabbing it along as I go, trying not to get it over on the edge, cleaning that up as I go along. And then I'm going right over those lines, and again, I'm going to take a straight pen or a toothpick or whatever I have handy to just go in and dig those back out while the paint is still wet, giving us that dimension or that illusion of that ruffle at the bottom of the towel. So there I've got everything on the coffee bar towel painted in its first coat. I will do 2 coats with the white. I find that with white, I like to do 2 coats. Darker colors, I don't have to do that. But there you go, and that is everything on there. Now we are going to repeat the process on the Mrs. Claus bakery towel. Same thing. You're going to want to be careful. I'm holding this up so you can see what I'm doing, but when I paint that Mrs. Claus one, the best way to paint it is flat down on your surface, maybe even on your base towel, because of those little teeny parts between the K that want to break off. Now, if they break off, what I do is I just set them over on the tape with the other items that I'm going to paint. And as you can see, one of them broke off, and I just put them over there. And that is how we paint the towels. Now, to do these smaller items, there's a couple things you can do. If you have a white paint marker or a paint marker that matches the color that you're doing your towels, use that. If you don't, use those flat end swabs that I provide you and just go ahead and tap them on the surface and then just go back with the finer edge and clean everything up. That's all you have to do there. There's a look here. I'm just cleaning up. I got some around the edge. The reason you don't want a bunch on the edge here is because it fits together like a puzzle, and if you get too gloppy with the paint, the items will not fit back in. So here I'm just doing a little dab and flattening it down and keeping things cleaned up as I go along. And this is what all the inner parts look like when they are painted white. So the last thing we need to paint white are these skinny parts of the stands. Now the reason we do that is it gives a little bit of a lift to the stand to have some paint in there on it to fit easily over the ladder. If you don't, your brace might be too snug, might break off. So I just kind of take one of my Q-tips and glob a little paint on there and clean it up on the sides. But if it's a little thick on the top, that's what I want. You can do as many coats as you need. I'm using chalk paint and I just did one thick coat. That's all I needed. The main thing is to just kind of keep it even so you're not, because you're going to have to glue this and you want it a flat surface. Next up, we are going to be painting all the brown items for the kit. I'm using this antique wax and I'm choosing brown. You can choose whatever color you like. I am going to show you some techniques so you can turn basically any color into a stain if you don't have any stain. But if you've got stain or a wax, this will work. If you've got paint, you water it down and wipe it off with a baby towel and you'll get the same effect. So I'm going to take out the ladder, all the scoop parts, and then that Made with Love little rolling pin from the Christmas sign. And those are the things I'm choosing to paint brown in this kit. Again, you can do whatever you want. Using the wax, I'm just taking a little bit on a sponge, putting it on, and then I am wiping it off. I am doing both sides of the spoon base. I will also be doing both sides of the ladder because you can kind of see them from the back. And I just want them to have a more natural look and be finished. So basically you're going to take that and just wipe it off. I am just using a little bit of a cut up t-shirt. That seems to work best. Doesn't leave any lint or paper dust behind. And I do that on everything that you see up there. And then finally for the rolling pin, I take and I dab. And then when I wipe away, the darker stain just settles into where the word is. And you can take it one step further and you can distress items. I'm using an old emery board here. You can use sandpaper or whatever in kind of a fine grit, like probably a 220 sandpaper, and just kind of go over the edges. And I'm doing the same thing on the ladder. And then if you want to take it a step further, you can, to make this look more like wood, you can take some of your white paint. And I'm going to bring out the plate here where I had my white paint before, and I'm going to take a stiff bristled brush. And I'm going to dab it into that white paint and dab a little off and kind of do this dry brush effect along the edges where I get a little bit of white paint on there. And then I take my emery board, finger, wet towel, whatever to kind of smooth it out so it's not a harsh color of white. Kind of blend it in and give it that wood, that weathered wood look. This is optional, but that's another way that you can distress up your items. And this is what the brown items look like, all painted. So we are going to assemble the ladder stand and then show you how the ladder fits in. And you're going to grab that larger rectangle and the smaller one with the little holes. You are going to put glue right in between those holes. And if your glue comes out too big, just put it on a toothpick like I show here. And put it on with the toothpick. Then you're going to take it and line it up precisely on the little outline that's on there. I'll show you here in a minute. I just took it off camera, but there's a rectangle there. You're just going to want to center it on that rectangle and then clamp it with some clamps or clothespins to hold it. Then when it's all dry in a couple of minutes, it's a nice firm hold, and then your ladder goes into the stand like that, and it sits it back at an angle so everything rests on it properly. The next step to completing our projects is to paint all the little towel and scoop accents with our paint markers. I am going to take out all the little parts of the scoop. There's a little clear elastic band on this coffee cup, and I'm going to take that off and set it aside because we do use that later. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take all the little parts for the coffee scoop out, except for the beads, ribbon, and string. You'll see there's three little cookies and a banner, and on the coffee cup there's coffee beans, a coffee cup, and a banner. We are going to do the coffee bar parts first. So I am just repeating that trick of doing the tape loop and getting my little items taped down, sorting them kind of according to color that I'm going to do. The coffee cup there, in the front of it and everything is all pre-painted this light brown, but we're going to take the in parts out of it just like we did those words, and we are going to paint that a different color. And these are teeny parts. I took the liberty of pre-painting a few things for you so it will make it easier for you to complete your kit. The little coffee beans I'm sticking together, and that little tag that you see that says coffee, that's pre-painted as well. You don't have to do a thing with that. So I am just setting my other one that I have done there for a little inspiration. I don't like how light those coffee beans turned out. I'm going to do those black as well. I'm going to do the insides of those coffee cup parts black, and I'm going to use my black marker on the words coffee and bar. I am going to use a red marker on both the little hearts that come off the cups, and I am going to use a gray marker on that little mug itself with the handle. I'm also going to use a white marker to add some accents, and I'll show you how I do all that. The parts that I don't need to paint, I'm just setting aside so I don't get them touched up with paint accidentally. But here is how I'm using the paint marker. This is a black brush paint marker. This has a brush tip on it, like I said, and this is the Sharpie brand, but you can find that on Amazon, anywhere, any brand, but I will link the Sharpie ones below that I used. They do give nice coverage. Now I'm continuing on after I do the words coffee and bar, and then I'm getting all the coffee beans done. And as you can see, when they are painted black, they do have that centerpiece that is cut out with that bean shape. So that is what all those parts look like painted. Now I'm going to do those inner parts of that little cup bead that I'm going to call that the to-go cup that we are going to do. And again, with this brush tip marker, I get nice coverage, one swipe over there, and all those parts are done. So you can see how those markers just make it very easy for you to do. Like I said, I will link them down below along with some cheaper alternatives that you can find on Amazon as well. They've got a couple of nice sets as well. But this brush tip you can use the tip of it for small details and then use the side for larger details. This is what that gray one looks like on the cup, and that's what it looks like all done. All of these I am doing one coat, and that's it. I am using the red now on the two little hearts, and I'll get those done. And then once I have everything all painted up, I am going to take out this white marker. There is a white marker with the set, but I like this white Artistro marker. I will link that down there below as well. That one I got off Amazon in a 6-pack, but I think you can buy them individually as well. And these are all the little parts all put together, and here you can see I'm going to start to do my accents. So what I am doing for accenting is I like to pump it off and prime the marker off on a piece of paper, test first, because white markers can blotch a little bit. So what I do is I get it all primed and pumped and then test it, and then I take it to my project and make just small little accent marks wherever I want. Now, if I get too much on there, I can go back over it with the black marker and take that off. And you can see I get a glob on this project. I don't like how it looks. I kind of take it off with my finger, and I'm going to come back to that. So that's why I said you might want to test them first. So I'll correct that with my black marker once it's dry. On the words, I am just taking kind of on the downstroke of each letter. So that would be the letter the part of the letter you do first and you go down with. I am just doing a small line and a couple of dots. Same thing around the bump on the hearts, and then on the cup as well. I'm just doing a little bit here and there around by a couple of edges and on the handle. And that's what everything looks like, all accented up. It just adds that little extra touch. Now I'm just taking my black marker back and just going over things and fixing any flubs that I have. And I'm doing the accents on the beans with the gray instead of the white, just for a more subtle look. And finally, I'm going to go on that to-go cup that's already pre-painted and do a couple of white accents on that, and then I am done. Now we're going to repeat the same process with the accents for our Christmas project. I'm going to tape things down, anything that is pre-painted like the snowflake, that type of thing I am setting aside, and I'm going to figure out my color scheme for the accents that I am going to be painting. And what I'm doing is a yellow on the outside of the star, some green and some red, keeping to those traditional colors. For the yellow, I did do 2 coats. Yellow just seems to be one of those colors where you need 2 coats. Then I'm taking out my green marker. I'm using the little tips to fill in the small, teeny tiny circles on that tree to make dots on the tree. That is already pre-painted a light brown. Then for the bigger star, I'm just going over it with the green marker. I'm going to take my green marker also on the brush tip end and color in the word bakery. When I have that all done, that is what the green accents look like all painted. Then I'm going to take out my red and do the little circles on top of the green star. And I'm also doing red as an accent on that small star and using the brush tip to fill in the Mrs. Claus. And then that is what everything looks like finished for the Christmas towel and scoop accents. And next we will be putting together all the small pieces and parts for the scoops. So now we are going to make the little accent beads for your wood scoops. The Christmas one we will do first. It consists of the brown pre-painted piece, a base piece that is not painted, and 2 little spacers that will fit. So you're going to want to put glue on the spacer and then line it up. Each one will line up perfectly on either the right or left side. Just line the bumps up. And you're going to repeat the process for the other side. And then what it does is it leaves a gap in the middle for your string to pass through once your bead is all assembled. So you're just going to want to make sure that your edges line up as perfectly as you can. And then you're going to want to take the pre-painted brown piece, and that's going to go over the top. Before I glue it down, I just make sure I see how it goes, and it just makes it a little bit easier. So you'll see where those edges line up really good, and then you press down. And then you've got a white pre-painted snowflake. If you don't like the color that it is, you can go over the back of it with a different color and just flip it around. But you're going to take your toothpick, put a tiny drop of glue on your toothpick, and just spread that around on that snowflake. And then that snowflake goes right on top of that brown pre-painted piece. And then your snowflake bead is complete for your scoop. So next up, we will work on that to-go cup bead for the coffee scoop. So that same thing, it's got a base, 2 spacers, and then that overlay piece that's pre-painted brown, and then our black accents that we did previously. So this has got a little more assembly to it, but it's the same. You're going to take your left and right pieces of your spacer and put one on the left, like that. And I have the nicer side of that blank backer showing on the back, and I'm covering up the parts that look a little charred on the edges. And I'm doing the same thing on the right side. And then again, leaving that space in the middle for your string for when we put together our scoop. So there's that. Now I'm going to take the to-go cup, kind of the outline of it that's pre-painted brown, and I am doing a little bit of glue around all the edges, taking care not to get it in the middle so that when I put my string through, no glue is going to get on the string. And I'm just lining that up too. And if you see me taking things off to line up, it's just because I have bad eyes and I like to bring it up close so I can see. But once I have it lined up, then I'm going to, if I don't line up perfectly, I'm taking my black marker and I'm just going over the edges. That's just a little trick to kind of fool the eye so it looks all finished. And then I'm just doing a little dab of glue on either side of that spacer that is exposed. Next up, I am doing the same thing for the heart. And then I am going to do the rest of the top three pieces. You can see how nice it is to keep everything in order on that tape. So when you have to put things back together, it's just a very smooth process. Now we're going to do the two small spots on top for our to-go cup bead, and then this project is going to be ready for our next step. Now we are going to assemble the wood scoops. I'm going to go over in great detail how to do it on the Christmas scoop, and then we're going to basically repeat the process on the coffee scoop. I'll show you both, but you're going to want to get out your string, your bead, your ribbon, and then we are going to start gluing. So I'm going to take that, I guess, overlay of the scoop, put a little glue on it, and then line it up with the top of the base of the scoop and the sides, and it should line up perfectly. And take some clamps and just clamp that down so it will be good and secure when we start to work with the rest of our pieces. So as you can see with your string, you have got a little bread tie or twist tie that comes with it. You are going to want to take that out and have that, again, ribbon, and there's a clear elastic you're going to want to have. Next, we are going to glue on the little cookies. So I am going to do the star first. Now this was pre-painted brown. If you did not like that, you could take your marker and paint it a different color. But I tried to get a few things done for you on this project so that if you are a beginner and are intimidated by painting small items, they come pre-painted for you. So then I did the chocolate chip cookie, and then on top of that, I am doing the little Christmas tree cookie. That one, again, pre-painted brown with the little green dots that we added in the previous video. So now once your scoop is all done, again, you're going to find that piece of string. You are going to take that bread tie that came with it and just cut along one side of the wire and peel that white off. What that does, it gives you a nice thinner needle to get through your small beads. Then you're going to take your string, and that's going to be doubled up. So you want to pull that apart, unravel it, if you will. And then you're going to have a loop at one end and the two ends of the string at the other end. Inside that loop end, you are going to hook through or thread through your little wire needle that we made out of the twist tie. Pull that so it's straight. Then you're going to loop it through that hole in the scoop, and then the hole in the little green checkered piece that says for Santa, your little tag, if you will. Then you're going to take the two ends and put them through that loop, and then pull the entire thing nice and tight so you have that string holding together your scoop and little tag right at the top of the scoop. And you're going to want to get rid of any slack and have it nice and tight. I'm cutting off some excess here. I'm putting my needle back on the string, and now I'm going to take that smallest bead and kind of twist that on the needle, and eventually it will go and then slide down your string to the top of that scoop. Next up, you're going to take your little snowflake accent bead, find that opening that we made, pull that through, and pull that tight down to that other bead that we just put on. Finally, you're going to have some sort of a red and white bead. It may look different than mine, and you're going to put that on. Next, you're going to find that clear elastic, and that's what we're going to put on next. We are going to thread that clear elastic right through, or put the needle right through that clear elastic piece. Stretch it out if you need to, like I have on my fingers, and just get that right up there next to that red bead with a bit of space, and you're going to lay your ribbon down. We're not going to tie the ribbon on yet. We're going to make a loop first. So to make the loop, I am going to take my little needle that we have, pull it through with the string back through the top of that red and white bead, making sure that you're keeping that clear elastic on top of the ribbon, just like I've shown. And as you go, you're just going to want to pull tight and get rid of any slack. Again, we are going to go back down through that snowflake accent bead that we made and pull that tight. Okay, once that is all done, you're going to just get rid of any slack. And then we are going to take, and just ignore what I'm doing with the tape there. I was trying to straighten it out so it would look good, but it just wasn't having it. So I'm just pulling and getting rid of slack as I go. Now I'm going to tie a knot, just one in that ribbon for now, and we'll do another one later. And that's going to allow me to pull it even tighter so that the clear elastic just rests right on the knot of that ribbon. Okay? So now we're at the base of that accent bead, and we need to start tying a series of loops and knots to secure everything in place and make sure we don't have any loose ends. So I'm doing 1/2 of a square knot on the front end, flipping it over, and then between that little round bead and the accent bead, now on the back, I'm going to do 1, pull it tight, and a second one and pull it tight. Then I'm going to take that string and I'm going to go up the back of that bead and get my string so it's between the accent bead and the red and white bead. I'm going to flip it over, getting my ribbon out of the way, and now I'm going to bring my string around again between that red and white bead and between the accent bead, and trying to get that ribbon out of the way. It's just being pesky there. There we go. And I'm going to do 1 knot there, and then I'm going to flip it over to the back one more time. We are going to start working with making our final knots on this. So I'm going to take my little needle that I've made again, and I'm going to go on one of the strings and put it on. My strings are separate now, and that's what I want. And I am going to go back underneath that string on the bead. So I'm going to take that, pull it across, and I'm going to repeat the same step on the back on the other string. So basically I have the strings crisscrossed between that middle string. And this is going to give us the base to make our final double knot, and then we will cut off the excess. So 1, 2, and I pull it as tight as I can, and then I come in with my scissors and I clip that off, and then the knot is just on the back of the bead. So I'm going to take my ribbon one more time and do one more knot just to secure that into place, and keeping that clear elastic so it is just a loop at the top. Then I'm going to take my nice sharp scissors. These are fabric scissors I got from Walmart, and I'm doing just one angled cut on either one. Now this is optional, but if your ribbon is fraying, you can take some of your glue, or if you've got fray check, and go right along the side of each cut. And then your scoop is ready for your display. So we're going to repeat a lot of the steps here to get our coffee scoop done. You're going to take out all the little bits and pieces from the bag that came with it. I'm going to use the same same little needle trick that I did with the other one and trim it down and get my string ready to go. And you can use the same needle from the other one if you still have it too, but I always provide one for each. And I'm getting my glue on the back of the top overlay scoop and getting those lined up just like we did for the Christmas scoop. And then I'm going to start putting this together. So I'm getting my clamps on there to get that all set so it's ready to roll. I'm kind of playing with the placement of the coffee beans, and I am going to put glue on those and get those in there. There's just 3. And remember, we painted them black with the gray accents. So I get those on there and let everything set up. And once it is dry, then I'm going to take my string, feed it through the top hole of the scoop, then through my little coffee banner, and do the same thing where I feed the end of the string through the loop and pull it tight. I'm getting rid of my excess string, and I'm going to take one of these small beads, put it on, and then I'm going to put on my coffee cup bead, and then I'm going to do one more small bead at the top. Getting my clear elastic and putting that through, and getting my ribbon too. I forgot to tuck it in there, so I'm going to tuck it in there here in just a second. And I'm trying to pull through the slack and realizing, oh, I need my ribbon in there. So I'll get that in there. I leave my mistakes in so you can see how to fix things if something goes wrong with your project. But I'm just taking that, and then it's easier to tighten things down once I have that string in. Now, one thing I forgot to do with my string here is tie the knot in it, the first knot. I do that later, but at this point in time, once you have it nice and tight, you're going to want to tie that knot in that first knot in your ribbon. So I am taking my string, and again, I'm tying a knot between the little wooden bead and the bottom of that cup, and then I'm flipping it over and doing a double knot on the back, feeding it up toward the back of the cup, and I will flip it over on the front, and I will do another 1 loop knot between that top bead and the top of the cup, and then I will flip it over and do the double knot on the back. And there I'm going to do my double knot. Then I'm going to take my needle and do that same trick where I feed each string crisscross underneath the middle of the bead. So there we go, and we're going on one side, and then we're doing the other. And then I will do that double loop again, 1, 2, and then cut. Okay, and then I forgot to do my knot on the ribbon, like I said, so I cut it, and then I did my little glue trick, and then I realized, oh, I did not knot my ribbon. So I'm doing it afterwards, but if you do it first, then this will be easier, because I got glue all over my fingers when I did it, but we're fine. It turned out just fine, and then I've got the clear elastic at the top, and our scoop is done. So by now your towels should be dry from a couple of coats of paint, and we're going to add some accents onto our Christmas towel first, and then I will show you on the coffee bar towel. What I'm doing here is I am taking a watercolor colored pencil, and it is kind of a black or a charcoal color, and I'm making just some little lines with it along those scored lines on the ruffle on the bottom portion. Then I am going over with either a wet sponge or a wet down very tiny paintbrush, and I'm going over those and kind of blending those in to give kind of a shaded effect on that ruffle, to just give it that little accent or distressed look that you would get on a towel. I am repeating the same thing on the side of the base, And I'm going up along that part that's going to show with that black, and then just blending that in with the sponge, and then a little bit more to get it more pronounced so it's a shadow. And that's what that will look like when it's together. Finally, I am going to do some little dots along like I did on my sample piece. I'm going to do some very small, tiny green and red dots along the top and bottom of that ruffle. So using that line as my guide, I'm taking the brush tip and just doing very small dots all along the top of that ruffle, and then all along the bottom of that ruffle, and I'm also doing them on the backer piece as well. And then your Christmas towel will have all the accents done on it, and it will be ready for assembly here in just a minute. So now I'm going to show you a different technique to doing some accents on the coffee bar tea towel. So that one, I am going to take my antique wax again, and I am going to get that on a sponge, and it's just kind of dabbed off all the excess, and I am going around all the edges and just kind of smoothing it out as I go. Then I'm taking kind of the corner of the sponge and doing a little accent on each ruffle, and then going on the back, and that gives you that shaded effect as well with a different technique. And you can go over and add or subtract whatever you like, and smooth it down with the emery board if it's too harsh for you. And that is what that accent looks like. So now we are going to put together our towels. I like to do a dry fit. I'm doing the coffee bar towel first. It's going to be lined up along the top, along the side, and along the bottom. And then the left-hand side there is going to be where the shadow part comes out on the base. It's just slightly wider. You're going to take your glue and just put a little bit of glue on the backer and on the overlay piece, and then line them up again on the right-hand side as you're looking at it, on the bottom and at the top, and taking care to get them good and lined up. You've got a few seconds to work with it. And if they don't line up perfectly, we can do that trick with our black magic marker again, but you can clamp them down if you want, wipe any excess off. I am doing that trick with the black marker because I have just a little bit of an edge showing there, and then it's fine. And then we will start putting our little pieces and parts of the coffee bar towel together. So I'm getting out my words and my cup and my heart and all the little inner parts as well. So I'm doing this, I'm just putting some glue kind of liberally in there because it's going to pop down like a puzzle. And then I'm doing the same thing with the cup, and then I will get the heart put in there. There was a little glue in the middle. And then bar, I'm just making sure it all fits, and I'm putting that in, and I'm showing you that if part of it breaks off, you just slip it back in, because that could very well happen. Now I can see which ones go in with the word bar. I already have glue in the middle there, so I'm just popping everything down, the upper part and lower part of the B, the middle of the A, and the little part for the R. Okay? Then I've got that little part for the coffee cup handle, and then what goes in with the C and the O, and then between the two E's for the word coffee. And your coffee bar towel is now done. Now we're going to repeat the process on our Christmas towel. We're going to get some glue on the base and the overlay, and then line them up exactly how we did the previous one, along the top side, the right side, and the bottom, and that left side as you're facing it shows up as your shadow. Once you have it all done, if you want to clamp it down, you can, and then we're ready to start putting in our accents. So I'm going to do my little black pen trick there along the bottom, and just inspecting that everything looks lined up good, and that's ready to roll. So now I'm going to start putting in my accents as well. We'll start off with the star. Play with the placement of it. It does look like it could go in several different ways, but you might get a gap, so you want to make sure you have the correct top of the star at the top. Place it in, and then same thing with the inner part of the star, and get that in there. Then we'll do the little rolling pin. That goes in quite easy, only one way. And then we will start with the word bakery. And remember, we have all those extra little parts in there. You want to make sure that they get in there correctly. And then we've got the Mrs. Claus. Once we get that in, then we can start filling in our little innards of the S's and the O's and the A's, the parts between the K, that type of thing. So we are going to go ahead and get the word Claus in there, and then get out our little pieces. And I am going to do the Mrs. Claus first. And I've already got glue where everything needs to go, so I'm just putting them in as I find what fits where. And if I'm missing a part or whatever, I'm probably going to stick some extras in your kit for you, and I'll label it as extras just in case you're missing any pieces. They're easy to lose. And so then we've got an A in there, the middle of the A, and now I'm going to find that piece of the K that I flubbed up and broke off. After I get that bigger part done, oh, then the E, then I'm doing my small parts. So I've got this little small part that's going in, and then I find the rest of the Mrs. Claus and my part of the K, and everything goes in just fine. And that's what that looks like when that is all done. Our last little bit of business is to get the backers on the back of the towels. So I'm taking those pieces that I painted white, and I'm doing that little trick with my black marker to get the sides cleaned up. Where it's white, I'm just leaving white because that's where it's going to get glued and it will not show, but I want these sides to be clean. And so once I get that done, then I am going to take my ladder, and I'm just laying my towel on top of the ladder to see where I want it. And for the towels, you don't want them to be, even with the bottom, you need them to be up a little bit. So once I have where I want it, I'm taking just one of my colored pencils, making a line, and just looking, making a line and looking where I want it to go. Then I'm putting glue on the backer, the unpainted part of it, and lining it up with that line, and then clamping it down once it's straight. So this is what it looks like on the coffee bar towel. You make kind of a J channel. It goes right over that top rung on the ladder, and this is kind of how you put it all together when it's done. I just kind of play with this while it's drying and hang my scoop on so you can see what it looks like with the scoop and towel on it, and then in the stand. So once that's dry, I'm taking that off, and I'm taking my wider piece of the brace, and I am lining that up along with the top of that white strip that we just did, leaving that J channel and then clamping that down to dry. Once that is dry, then I take that off, and I let it dry good before I try to put it on the hanger, just so it won't bust off or anything. But once it's set pretty good. So I'm going to take that off, display the Christmas sign and the Christmas scoop, and then our project is complete. Now that our projects are complete, I want to thank you for joining me on this video. And if you would like to order this kit, the link to order is down below. If they are sold out, I may have something else in that area for sale. You can just check out on my website. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But thanks for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed this video from the Speckled Loon. Bye for now. We'll see you on the next one.